Go right ahead,
okay.
brother.
This is my passion of all the different things that are you can get upset about. The fact that we're in a scientific dark age on something that millions of Americans are using, is immoral. I mean, so putting my tinfoil hat away and getting my moral preacher book out, like it really is. And let me explain why it is. Okay. If the federal government is correct that this stuff is so dangerous, it has to be locked away in Schedule 1. And if you dare touch it, you need to have this, $10,000 to $50,000 safe, and we have to have fences around you and all these record keeping requirements because it's so outrageously dangerous, right? But then they're going to turn a blind eye to the fact that millions of Americans are using it all across the country, right? And they're not going to let these scientists do the research to find out and actually know. So if that is in fact the case, then our elected officials have kind of a moral duty to enforce the law, right? If it's not, and it actually could be useful, that research would tell us how, under what circumstances, and then they could facilitate getting it to people, like maybe the 17 veterans who are committing suicide each day, right? Maybe they might have been able to benefit if they were using these things instead of getting addicted to opioids, for example. And again, that's a moral imperative. And I'm not a moralizer. My dad's a preacher, a Methodist preacher. I am not. I chose to do something different. It is very rare for me to get up on my moral high horse. I'm on it. This is my moral high horse. This is outrageous. Second point, the reason that this is happening and the reason it's complicated is because of the model that Todd was talking about earlier. That pharmaceutical model, it works like this. The research that we require to get drugs to market are called randomized clinical trials, usually placebo-controlled in 3 phases. Bottom line is, to get them done, it costs between usually $100 million to $1 billion for a single drug. And he's right that it usually focuses on a single molecule. Now, why would anybody pay? I don't know if you guys got $1 billion to pay to prove cannabis is safe when everybody's already using it. Like, I don't. And it turns out nobody does. So the reason that people normally are ready to pony up that money is because they are pharmaceutical companies who get certain things on the back end because of that investment. They get temporary market exclusivity. Okay, that means that when they get a drug through that process, they get a monopoly on it and they get to sell it for years and nobody else can get it. So they get to reap all the profits from bringing this brand new cure to the market. That's the first thing. Then on the back end, they get patent rights and other intellectual property that they then get to protect their piggy bank. And that justifies for them. That gives them the incentive to go do that research. Okay, well, guess what? None of those incentives work for cannabis. It's already on the market. No one's going to pay to get market exclusivity. That can't possibly happen. You understand? That's why the pharmaceutical companies aren't going to pay for it. Okay. And then even if you did get it to market, you wouldn't be able to get the patent rights on it. I mean, maybe there's going to be some, but it's not going to be like with a synthetic molecule. This is incredibly important to understand. When you see people talking about that they're going to open up research and we're going to move it to Schedule 2. Sue Sisley wanted to do the research. We fought DEA and won 4 times to be able to get her to be able to have a license to grow and go do the research. There's no money. No one's paying her to do that research. There's not a problem of people not being able to do it. The problem is money because the model is broken. Okay. And so the last point that I have to make on this, and I'll shut up. I told you it's my moral high horse. This is the last point. The last point is in 1982, the FDA released it's called a drug bulletin. It was this like little guidance document that they sent around to all the folks who worked with the FDA. And they said they were commenting on DEA's 5-part test for currently accepted medical use that Todd was also referring to earlier. That's now basically FDA approval, okay? And through this process for interstate marketing. And they were saying like, listen, yeah, if we approve it for interstate marketing through randomized clinical trials, sure, that proves currently accepted medical use. They go, but theoretically, there could be other ways. Like, for example, if states started accepting something for medical use. If enough states accepted something for medical use, eventually, I guess you'd have to admit that it has medical use. You know why? Because the states are the authorities under our federal system over the practice of medicine. That's Gonzalez v. Oregon, an assisted suicide case that you might remember from back when, right? That is what has happened with cannabis. But since then, they've been hijacked by this DEA standard that requires FDA approval. And that has locked us into this model that will never approve cannabis for medical use, the plant. You'll get Epidiolex, you'll get Marinol, you'll get those molecules by a pharma company, and understand that once you do, they get market exclusivity, which means nobody else gets to sell them, even if they wanted to. So what we're all talking about, the cannabis, the flower that we're talking about, is not even part of the conversation under the federal model. Everybody needs to understand this. And you know who doesn't get it? Congress, Chuck Grassley, even the folks who want, and I'm a Chuck Grassley fan on many levels, but not on this one. And it's not because he's hearted in the right place. It's because he doesn't understand this reality about the drug approval system.